Hey, how's everybody doing? Okay, how many people here have a camera on them right now? You don't have a camera? How many people have two cameras? Okay, how many people make it a point to walk out of your house with a camera, even if it's just their smartphone, and to make sure it's recharged, it's fully charged, and make sure you have space? And how many people have backup cameras? Okay, good. Because I never leave home without at least 2 or 3 cameras, sometimes 4, even if it's the iPad, even if it's a flip, even if it's the iPhone, even if it's the mirrorless camera, which I'm using now. And here's my story. My name is Carlos Miller. I run a blog called photographyisnotacrime.com. I started that in 2007 after I was arrested for taking photos of cops. Now, my background is in journalism. I went to school for journalism. I wrote for my high school newspaper. I wrote for my college newspaper. I did internships. I paid my dues. I worked in New Mexico on a small border town near the Mexican border, which I'm from Miami, so that was a big step. I worked in Arizona, California as a police reporter. I covered the police beat. I would go out to these shootings and crime scenes and take pictures and write stories and interview cops and interview witnesses and suspects and all that stuff. And so I know how to deal with the cops with a pass, with a media badge. And it's always been a challenge because you're always testing out the system and you're always trying to get closer, get access, and they're always trying to get you away. But what happened was in 2004, I got fed up with the corporate media. I said, no, the corporate media was going in the direction that I was not comfortable with. I like to speak the truth. I like to, to me, the media represents the people. It serves as a voice for the people who have no voice. That's always been my definition of the media. That's the way the media has always been in this country ever since it started. And back in the 1700s with the pamphlets and all that stuff, which is why we actually revolted against the United Kingdom of Britain, because it was the journalists, the newspapers. So, the corporate media has, that's another story. So in 2007, I was in Miami, and I was working on a story for a local website, and I didn't have a press badge. I no longer had the credentials or the prestige of working for the daily newspaper as I had back in Phoenix when I worked at the Arizona Republic, which is the biggest paper in Arizona and the second biggest paper in the Southwest behind the LA Times at that time anyway. And, so I'm there taking pictures for a story I'm doing. I come across a group of 5 cops. I start taking pictures. My goal was to take pictures and move on. It was actually a story on this neighborhood that was actually up and coming. It was a neighborhood famous for its prostitution, its drugs, and everything, and suddenly businesses were moving in. So I thought, okay, that's a small part of the story. I'm taking pictures of these cops, making an arrest. I'm going to move on. I got prostitutes I want to interview. This is more interesting to me than a bunch of cops. They say, no, you can't take our picture. This is a private matter. I say, well, this is a public street. Cops don't like to be questioned. They don't like anybody standing up to them. And they're so accustomed to people just bowing their head and kissing their ass that it unsettles them when someone says, no, sir, I'm going to be right here. With all due respect, I'm going to do my job, and please do your job and allow me to do my job. And, that's how I used to do as a reporter. I try to always maintain a professionalism. And these cops, no, you have to leave, you have to leave, you have to leave. They grabbed me by the arm, they escorted me across the street. I was standing across the street, and they go, keep walking, keep walking. So I kept taking their photos, and they arrested me. They pounced on me. They beat me up. They threatened to tase me. They broke my camera, my flash. I was all busted. They bashed my head into the pavement. They twisted my arm behind my back, and I was thrown in jail for 16 hours on 9 misdemeanor charges. Of course, there's no law against taking pictures, so they had to make up some story. They said, well, I was standing in the middle of Biscayne Boulevard, which is a very busy street in Miami. Where traffic in Miami doesn't stop for anybody. And they're saying, okay, I was standing in the middle of the street blocking traffic, and everyone's just like, the whole traffic is disrupted because I'm taking pictures. And that's why I went to jail. Well, okay, fine. But when I got out of jail and got my camera back, they didn't delete my footage because I don't think they figured it out yet, because they started doing that afterwards. And the last photo I took showed the street behind them, which if you go on photographyisnotacrime.com, you'll see that photo in the top of the blog, because it's what started the whole thing with my blog. The street's behind these cops. I'm on the sidewalk. So I said, okay, this is going to be easy. I'm going to start this blog, and they're going to throw it out. The DA is going to throw it out, and life will go on. But no, it doesn't work that way. When you make a stand, when you actually, when you don't take the plea, which I refuse to do, they'll go, well, take the plea deal because there's 5 cops and there's 9 misdemeanor charges, and you're not going to win. And I said, screw that. I'm going to go to court. I had my lawyer dropped me, so I got another lawyer, and we went to court. And then the state attorney, the prosecutor, walks up there and shows a picture as big as day. He expands it, and I'm thinking, okay, here's my evidence that they're going to bring it in. Awesome. And he tells the jury, well, see, he was standing in the middle of the street. And I'm saying, what the fuck you talking about? I'm thinking, the street is behind. Of course I can't say that. I have to sit there really and the jury is looking, I'm looking at the jury like, guys, what the fuck, But that's how they do. These cops, these prosecutors, they will tell you night is day and day is night and expect you to believe it, and a lot of people will believe it because these are cops. And it's just so obvious. So of course, back then I didn't shoot video. I'm a writer by trade. I became a photographer as a newspaper reporter back in New Mexico when I worked at a small paper and there was no one else taking photos. So I had to learn how to take photos, which I got into. And after that, because of technology made it so easy, I started shooting video. And now, I have video with me at all times because I've been arrested a couple more times after that. And the third time I was arrested, they deleted my video footage. I was covering Occupy Miami, the eviction of Occupy Miami. By this time, they knew me. This is 2012. They know who I was. They don't like me. They even sent out a memo to the other cops. This is Homeland Security, their little fusion center they have in Miami. The Homeland Security Bureau saying, be careful, Carlos Miller is going to be there. Who is he? Oh, he's a multimedia journalist that's been arrested a couple of times. And he writes about cops. And then they take my picture from Facebook. I'm all smiling, giving a peace sign. And they're like, this guy's dangerous. I didn't know this. I didn't learn this till later. So when I was arrested, I was arrested by a public information officer, a PIO. These are the people you speak to. When you're a reporter, they give you the information. They're supposed to be nice to you if you're a reporter. All the other cops said, okay, this guy must be a reporter. They left me alone. I mean, I'll give them credit for that. They're all in the riot gear. They didn't say anything to me. But this PIO did, Nancy Perez. She had me arrested when all the activists had been evicted because I refused to go because the mainstream media was there. The corporate media was there. But they were embedded with the cops. They were walking behind the cops during the eviction. I'm walking in front of the cops. Why? Because I'm shooting from the perspective of the activist. Now, I do consider myself an activist when it comes to photographer rights, but I don't consider myself an activist as far as the Occupy people, although I did agree with a lot with what they had to say, and I even spent the night there once, but as a journalist, to see what's going on, because that's the way I like to do my journalism, to really get the truth, not just sit there and get what the cops are telling you. But I'm shooting from the perspective of the activists, where all these other idiots are in the back shooting from the back of the cops. And so when they evicted everybody, well, I'm staying here. As long as these guys are staying here, I have the right to stay here. Because why? Because the First Amendment makes no difference in whether you work for the media or whether you don't work for the media, whether you have a corporate media pass or whether you don't. The first freedom of the press, and this is the whole point I'm trying to get to, is this is for the first time in history, because of technology, because of the internet, because of the inexpensiveness of cameras. For the first time in history, we have true freedom of the press. Now, when they said we had freedom of the press back in the 1700s, they said everyone can have freedom of the press. That's why you had all these pamphleteers going around there and passing out their pamphlets, and it was really good. But things changed along the way. It became we had to own the press to actually have freedom of the press. And so what good is freedom of the press if you don't own the press? And most people don't own the press. And even if you work for the press, as I learned, you really don't have freedom of the press because you have editors and publishers, and they say, no, you can't write that. We have to be nice to the cops. I had cops complain about me when I was working in Arizona. Well, he's not being fair to us. When I said, okay, well, and I was called into the editor's office, well, can you name one example where I was not accurate? No, but it's just that you're not fair because you're writing negative stories. Well, it was. I was writing negative story after negative story after negative story because this Phoenix Police Department, they were doing these crazy things. And I was the guy who was exposing it, and I had no problem doing that. But they had a problem. That's why I left. I said, screw this. I'm not going to be censored by my own publisher, by this big newspaper, by this very powerful newspaper, censored to write the truth. Screw that. So I left, and so here we are. I got this blog, 2013. Here we are, and 6 years of the blog has been up and running. It's been a struggle because it's hard to make money, but look at this. What Antonio has done. There's a way to do that, and it's just like we have to be our own media, and there's numerous examples I'm going to get to here that I've documented over the years. I wrote about Antonio, numerous stories on him, which is why I'm here. But he's a perfect example. Like we talked about that earlier. When he was arrested, they arrested him for taking a picture. Well, there's someone across the street taking that picture. We're not talking, this is a reporter across the street. This is just a guy. I don't even know who it was. I don't know if he ever came forward, but that's what the point, the power of the camera. There was said, on this guy on TV said, the camera is a new gun, but someone earlier said that the camera is the great equalizer, which I think is a better term because it equalizes everything. But even then, you still have the odds stacked against you because the prosecutors will still twist the truth. They'll show you a video of a cop beating your ass, and they'll say, well, look, he was resisting. How do we know he was resisting? Because the cop is saying, stop resisting. And you're like, your arms are under. Every time I get arrested, stop resisting. Stop resisting. What the fuck? So this is why we need more than one camera. Because they will take that one camera. They will delete your footage. You need another camera. You need another camera. You need the Google Glass that they're going to come out with. You need the ear cameras. We need to have cameras everywhere. We need cameras. We need people to back us up. Unfortunately, when I go out there, I'm doing my journalistic assignments. I'm by myself. I'm very independent. But there's truth and power in numbers. Because when I go out there with people, with my friends, I never get harassed. I was on the Metro Rail. Earlier this year, this is the transit system in Miami. I had this long-running issue with the Metro Rail. Photography is allowed on the Metro Rail according to law, but they don't tell that to the security guards. So when I go in there, and in 2010, I went in there, I was taking pictures, and I was permanently banned with another guy. You're permanently banned for taking pictures. Well, we're not breaking the law. It doesn't matter. You're permanently banned. So we went back with the news crew. I went back with the news crew, and I was assaulted on camera by a security guard, and we exchanged punches, and paramedics came and cops came, and they wanted to arrest me, but the power of the camera, the news camera from what I saw showed that I was hit first. I was hit twice. And, not only that, the first time he hit my camera, he knocked it out of my hand. I had one of those little Canon cameras, and I had to pull out my iPhone, and I was never used to using my iPhone as a video camera because I have all these other cameras. I did it in a vertical way, which you're not supposed to do, but I did. And he comes after me because, oh, give me back my camera. He goes, get out of here, give me back my camera. Boom, he hits my camera again. Boom, I punch him. Oh, shit, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But I said, okay, but, don't hit me. Don't. I have the right to be on this train with my camera. I have the right to be a citizen without being assaulted, without getting attacked, and I especially have the right to video record, because that's the only protection I have. You walk in that Metro Rail, there's cameras everywhere. Of course, it's hard to get them. Now we're trying to get them through my last assault, because in January I was chokehold and dragged down an escalator, and I was arrested. No, I wasn't. Well, I was handcuffed, and they were going to arrest me. Cops came, and they knew, oh, it's Carlos Miller. Yeah, what's up, Carlos? Yeah, what's up? And my friend who flew in from California, he recorded this, and they knocked the camera out of his hand. They handcuffed him. Cops come and they say, okay, well, we're going to give you a citation for making excessive noise. I go, what do you mean excessive noise? The fact that I was yelling, I was pleading for my life when this guy's on top of me, choking me? He said, no, you were making noise and that's why they came to you in the first place. No, bullshit. I was taking pictures and I have it on video because I pulled out the video camera. And it shows you can't take pictures of the tracks. I wasn't taking pictures of the tracks. I was taking pictures of a building, my friend was. But even then, there's no law against taking pictures of the tracks. In fact, you go on the Metro Rail website, you get pictures of the tracks. Big deal. I ask them, well, what law? Cops always, here's one thing I always recommend. When cops tell you don't do this, ask them, what law? What law? That always throws, these are the people who are paid to enforce the laws, and you ask them what law, they're like, I don't fucking know, I don't know. It's because I say so. No. So when I said, what law? He goes, you have to leave. No, I don't want to leave. You have to leave. Yeah, and then I get dragged down the stairs. 3 of them come. It got really ugly. If you go on my blog, you'll see it. You Google Carlos Miller Metro Rail, you'll see it. And now we have even a bigger lawsuit against them. And it's, but I still had to get past this citation for making excessive noise. So I went to court 2 weeks ago with my lawyer, because we have to have lawyers. I recommend getting friendly with lawyers. A lot of people don't like lawyers, but there's a lot of good lawyers out there who believe in what we believe in, and they will help you out. And I don't have money, but they do help me out. And I help them out when I can. I give them clients. That's how it works. But this cop goes up there, and so he said, okay, well, the whole citation was based that I was making excessive noise, which is why this whole thing happened. Well, a cop has to witness that. That's what the law says. A cop has to witness that. And in this case, the security guard claimed that I was doing that, and the cops were taking their word. Even on their own citation, they wrote, well, we were informed that he was making excessive noise. Okay, so we were going to beat this. You would think. We get there, this cop basically lies through his teeth. We're going to get it on camera. And he said, no, he was making excessive noise after I arrived, when he was in handcuffs. So why didn't you write that the first time? I don't know. I didn't think about it. Okay, well, and then I'm in court, and I testify, and I get a little antsy. My lawyer tells me, shut up, Carlos, But, it's hard for me to just keep my mouth shut when this guy who just took an oath, who's lying about the most mundane thing. It wasn't a big deal. It was a civil citation. It just allows me to proceed with a lawsuit, not even against the police department, which that's another thing I'm going to file this year for the other arrest. But this is against the Metro Rail security guard. It's a private system, private company. And he lies. He basically has no respect for his badge, no respect for the court, no respect for the oath, no respect for the people, no respect for anybody. And that just pissed me off, and it makes me realize, like, I'm doing this 6 years, I should be numb to this, but no, I'm not. I'm sitting here, and he basically lies on a regular basis. They're trained to lie. And that's why we can't believe them. That's why we have to have our cameras. And if they weren't, so afraid of the truth, then, there's some cops who don't care. A lot of cops will say, hey, stand over there, you stand in my way, record all you want. And then you know what you get? You get a boring video. You get a cop just doing his job, and, it's great. It looks good on the cop, and you get put it up on the internet, and it won't go viral because no one really cares. But then you get that same cop who walks up to you, and he comes up to you and goes, get out of my face. Take that, they walk 50 feet up to you and like, get that camera out of my face. I'm like, well, you just walked up to me. And they say that, get that camera out of my face. And, well, I'm going to just keep recording. Or where do you want me to stand? Or what do you want me to do? I'm trying to, see their logic, which is really hard to do. Then the video goes on YouTube if they don't delete it, or even if they do delete it, I recommend photo rec. Just don't record anything over the footage they deleted, because you'll overwrite it. Because my footage was deleted in 2012 on my third arrest, and by the PIO, the public information officer, or her little sidekick. And they thought, okay, we got this. No one, we got the media here, but they don't care. They're on our side, because they didn't really care, the corporate media, except for the Miami Herald, the reporter who really wasn't embedded with her, and he actually testified on my behalf, which helped me. But yeah, the TV media didn't do a damn thing. They're all sitting there videotaping me, getting arrested, and nothing came out, nothing. Why? Because she's a PIO, and they don't want to lose access, because they have to depend on her every day for stories. So she tells them, oh, well, he's a troublemaker. And she has done that to another Miami Herald reporter in a previous story, and the Miami Herald trashed me. They trashed me. They were saying, well, he's been arrested 3 times, and this is before the third one went to court, and we have no way of knowing the result of the last 2 cases. I'm saying, wait, I talked to this woman, this reporter 3 times over 2 weeks, and I told her, it's all on my blog. If you go on the Miami-Dade court website, you'll see that there's no conviction. I was convicted of resisting arrest the first time, but I appealed out pro se with no lawyer, and I had that reversed. So I got no convictions. And the Miami Herald made it seem, under a little sidebar, there's no way of knowing the results of the outcome of those cases. So this is what I'm up against, and because why? Because the PIO said, well, you don't really want to write that because he's a troublemaker, and this reporter doesn't want to lose access to her, to the PIO. I know how that works, because I used to do that. And of course, I didn't really care, because I made sources from within the department. If I didn't Yeah, I didn't even get my information from that PIO, which they're bullshitters anyway. I'll get it from somewhere else, you know. That's the trouble they had with me in Phoenix. They didn't like the way I was able to find the truth, regardless of their attempts to manipulate the truth. So anyway, the whole point here, I don't know how much time I have, but is to be your own media. Just remember, you have no different rights than anyone who works for the corporate media. No different rights. And it's even easier because you have no editors, no publishers. Just know the laws, don't libel anybody, be smart. And the other thing I recommend is learning the public record laws in your state. In Florida, there's a lot of public records laws that are very easy that you can access. And I work with a guy named Joel Chandler in Florida who's really good. And, but different states have different laws, but work those to your advantage because that's what the reporters used to do. They don't do that anymore. The media doesn't care anymore. But they used to be able to, back when there was competition between the medias, the newspapers and the news stations, they would get the public records because they wanted to get the scoop and beat their other company out. Nowadays, they're all owned by the same people, so there's no need to compete. So now they just go, the cops tell them, this is what you got to say. Okay, we'll say it. I mean, it's not really working that way. This is what happened. Okay, this is what you say. Police say this. This must be the truth. And anyone who questions that, well, then you must be a rabble-rouser. You must be an activist. An activist is to be a bad word. I used to think, oh, man, those are bad people. But I'm a fucking activist, and I have to, it took me a while to admit that. But I'm also a journalist. And you can be an activist and be a journalist at the same time. There's no difference. Take care, guys.
Thanks, John.